5 News at Noon starts now.
Today, prison officials will meet with the legislative committee to answer questions about the escape and capture of prisoner Grant Hardin. And experts are issuing a warning about high water levels in the Arkansas River. Why they say the issues could linger for months. Well, thanks for joining us for your 5 News at Noon. I'm Morgan Wrigley here with Danny Cassidy, and I always love how you do a little wave
yes.
when I say here with Danny Cassidy. But speaking of those floods, that was a big deal earlier this week.
Yes.
It seems like we've had a little bit of time for a lot of areas to dry out, thankfully.
Yes, thankfully a lot of time to dry out and plenty of heat to help evaporate a lot of that moisture. But unfortunately, a lot of it's still at the surface, so you combine that heat with the humidity, and it does not feel very comfortable out there. It feels like 98 in Poto there in LaFleur County. Temperature, an air temperature of 90 already, just over the noon hour. That dew point of 73. So again, we saw that rain again. Thankfully, we've had a little bit of a break from that rain, but that leftover moisture is certainly packing a punch. The feels like across the board, at least in the 90s across much of the area. Poto just updated, now feels like 100 there in LaFleur County, mid to upper 90s for the most part in the River Valley. Some areas in Waldron, Boonville over 100, Northwest Arkansas in the low to mid 90s. And that feels like eventually as we head later into the afternoon and evening, in some areas could get as high as 105, maybe as high as 108 in some areas in the River Valley. So that is why that heat advisory is in effect for the River Valley. You might be wondering why LaFleur County's not in it. Again, that's just technicalities. I think really all the River Valley has an equal chance of anywhere from about 105 to as high as 108 for those peak heat index values. Northwest Arkansas will be about 95 to 100. Now, in terms of rain chances, we eventually will see those return through the weekend into early portions of the next week. So we'll talk a little bit about that and how that'll help cool us off a little bit coming up in your full forecast. Morgan.
Thanks, Danny. Well, the trial of a Crawford County man accused of killing 2 people is about to begin. 5 News reporter Bo Russell is in Van Buren right now as a jury is being selected. Wesley is accused of shooting and killing 2 different men, Terry Brasuell and Donald Lewis in Alma, during November of 2023. Terry Brasuell was Wesley's biological father. Earlier this week, Chief Deputy Prosecutor of Crawford County, Will Costner, said that should a guilty verdict be reached, he will not seek the death penalty but a life sentence. We will bring you updates all afternoon as the trial begins and as we learn more right here on 5 News from the courthouse as well as on our website. Well, happening today also, Arkansas State prison officials will testify in front of a legislative subcommittee about the escape of convicted murderer Grant Hardin. About 10 members of the Department of Corrections, along with the warden of the North Central Unit in Calico Rock, are expected to testify this afternoon. The subcommittee is made up of 10 state representatives and 10 state senators. Arkansas State Senate President Pro Tempore Bart Hester says he wants answers on how Grant Hardin obtained materials to make the disguise, how he was able to leave the prison grounds, and how he evaded capture for so long.
Important that we have these hearings. Look, and they're not a gotcha. They're not a disciplinary. We want some transparency. We want the people of Arkansas to know that we're doing a great job, to know that we found something that we're fixing, and what happened there, right? Transparency is going to be the key to just continue to let the people of Arkansas know they're safe. Our prison system's doing a great job.
The meeting is set for 3 o'clock this afternoon in Little Rock. We'll be streaming the meeting on 5 News Plus. If you want to watch, join us there starting at 3 today. Well, the Arkansas Department of Corrections has already confirmed personnel changes following the May escape. Spokesperson Rand Champion tells us because the investigation is ongoing, he can't share any more details right now about who was involved. We have requested public records from the DOC, though, and are waiting for a response. Court documents say Hardin wore a fake law enforcement uniform and was let out through a secure gate, bypassing normal checks. At a Board of Corrections meeting last month, board members said this wasn't a policy issue, but a failure by 2 staff members. Well, a positive outcome to a very scary situation in Los Angeles after the partial collapse of a tunnel with more than 24 workers inside. The workers were up to 6 miles from the tunnel's entrance when this happened. As Carter Evans reports, miraculously, all of them are safe.
Here at 1701 North Figueroa Street, we are getting reports of a tunnel collapse.
A massive response. More than 100 LA firefighters and urban search and rescue teams rushed to the community of Wilmington in Los Angeles after an underground tunnel collapsed, trapping 27 people inside Wednesday night.
They don't have a head count or a patient count at this point.
After the collapse of the 18-foot diameter tunnel, uncertainty followed.
Asked the police, please let me through, and my husband's in there.
Chelsea Fernandez says she got an alert on her phone and ran to the site.
And I just want to know if he's okay. And they said they couldn't give me any information. But then he called and he said he's out and everything's going to be okay.
It was determined that a structure failure of the tunnel lining failed approximately 5 to 6 miles in. The workers had to climb through debris.
Aerial footage shows the dramatic rescue efforts as workers stepped inside a metal cage that was hoisted by a crane to the surface.
This is insane.
All trapped workers were safely extricated. No injuries were reported.
We were very lucky this time.
The tunnel is part of a major LA County sanitation project to transport treated wastewater to the ocean.
I was so concerned that we were going to find tragedy. Instead, what we found was victory.
This is a big project that's supposed to be completed in 2027, but right now construction is on pause while authorities try and figure out exactly what happened. Carter Evans, CBS News, Los Angeles.
In Central Texas, a 7th day of searching for more than 170 people still missing after last week's flood. Amid the cleanup, questions about the systems meant to help notify people are being raised. John David Trollinger, a former Kerr County IT director, was part of the team that installed the county's Code Red phone-based warning system. He recorded the moment volunteer firefighters requested a Code Red alert as early as 4:22 a.m.
Is there any way we can send a Code Red out to our Hunt residents asking them to find higher ground or stay home?
Standby, we have to get that approved with our supervisor.
Some survivors report getting a Code Red alert an hour later. Trollinger says his didn't come until after 10 a.m. The Kerr County Sheriff says the incident will be reviewed. Meanwhile, the community is trying to heal through prayer, song, and service. Flags were lowered to half staff across Texas. Well, here at home, high water levels on the Arkansas River are creating a choppy time for boaters and businesses, and experts say the issues could linger for months. Maya Ellison found out that while there's no flood issues, it's making it hard to work or play.
Getting the consequences, if you will, from the rain to our friends from the west.
One of the state's busiest waterways is slowing down. With higher water levels affecting the river's flow, Port of Little Rock Director Brian Day says it changes how they operate day to day.
It takes longer to move barges to and from the docks because of the high water, because of the volume of flow. We have to work a little bit slower, be a little bit safer because the water conditions are not ideal.
In April, the Little Rock U.S. Army Corps of Engineers issued a small craft advisory for the Arkansas River. That advisory is still in effect. With the river moving swiftly, exceeding 70,000 cubic feet per second, it poses a hazard for boaters.
We have to be more extra careful. We have to make sure that our employees aren't hurt. We want to be a little bit more cautious.
This is pretty much an unprecedented year for us. Some of the smaller boats, they don't go faster than 5 miles an hour, so you would not be able to go upstream at all. You would actually be going downstream.
That's Steve Owen, president of the Little Rock Yacht Club. He says the message right now is simple: stay off the water.
It's just not safe to be out there right now, just because in addition to the water, you have limbs and trees and brush, and anything that's upriver that gets swept into the river is coming down.
While the river is below flood stage for now, that doesn't mean the risk isn't there. Here in North Little Rock, officials say parts of the Arkansas River Trail are underwater, prompting them to monitor conditions closely.
So high water has a far-reaching impact. In some places it floods. We're not flooding here, fortunately, but in some of the lower spots along the river corridor it floods. So this high water impacts a lot of people negatively.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Russia's foreign minister today as the White House expresses disappointment with stalled peace talks. It comes as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky continues meetings in Rome about the recovery of the war-torn country. Natalie Brandt has more from the White House.
Russia's latest drone and missile attack on Ukraine's capital overnight in populated residential areas killed 2 people and injured more than a dozen, according to Ukrainian officials.
Ukrainians now face attacks by hundreds of these drones every single night. And this is pure terrorism.
While Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky attends meetings in Rome focused on the country's recovery, Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Russia's foreign minister on the sidelines of a conference of Southeast Asian nations.
I echoed what the president has said, both disappointment and frustration at the lack of progress in peace talks or in a path forward.
Rubio also downplayed new reporting that the State Department was cut out of the Pentagon's decision to pause some weapon shipments to Ukraine.
It was a very limited review of certain types of munitions to ensure that we had sufficient stockpiles.
A U.S. official confirms that some munitions, including artillery rounds and precision-guided rockets, have resumed flowing into Ukraine. President Trump also said he's considering sending another Patriot air defense system.
I know they made the request. We're going to have to take a look at it. It's very expensive system.
The White House is also giving input to Congress on a bipartisan sanctions bill that would impose steep tariffs on countries that buy Russian oil.
I think it's leverage that we need and that, frankly, the White House needs in their negotiations with the Russians.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune says he hopes the bill can get to the floor before the August recess. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.